Morning, good afternoon, good evening, YouTube. Hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to the Goodwine Zone. We are standing today in front of the unnamed Japanese maple that we picked up from Coach Pat Dye's nursery. We're going to do a little early summer review of the Japanese maples that we reviewed this past August for fall color. So it's early summer. We kind of miss spring color, but we can talk about it. But let's start with the Osakazuki. You can see we are in a bad dry spell right now, and I cannot, hand water all of these plants of this size, and I really don't want to because I want them to be tough. I want them to find water on their own. If you hand water or sprinkler water a tree its entire life, it will depend on that. It will develop very shallow roots, and you leave for the weekend and you'll come back and she'll be in trouble. So I don't do that. I water them a lot to establish them, and even when I establish them, I don't water them every day and just a shallow bit of water. I water them slowly. I take a hose and I just barely drip it or barely run it right at the root ball, and I let it run for hours to saturate the ground beneath the tree so as to develop deep roots. All right. So anyway, Osakazuki is here. He's just nice and green. He's growing nicely. Let's go around to the left. This one was from Coach Dye's farm. It is a lace leaf. It may be a garnet, but we're not sure. And Coach Dye's farm, as you recall, we're talking about Pat Dye. He is in his farm, his nursery was in Notasulga, Alabama. Coach Dye has since passed away. And I'll tell you something interesting about Coach Dye. He was a big tree man and loved trees, loved Japanese maples. There's a great video, I'll try to find it and put a link below for you, where he gave a couple of tour of the Japanese garden, and it was just gorgeous. But anyway, it shows his love for that. But he also loved the Auburn oaks, which are a particular cultivar of a live oak that is at Toomer's Corner in Auburn. And when years ago cuttings were taken from the actual trees at Toomer's Corner, and they were rooted, and Coach Dye got several of the rooted cuttings and had them in his backyard, basically, on his farm. When he died, or right before he died, he said, "These trees have given to me all of their lives, and so I am going to give back to them." And so when he was buried, he was wrapped in a cotton shroud and buried beneath the Auburn oaks at his farm. So there you go. So anyway, we think it might be a garnet. When we bought it, it did not have a label. Obviously, it has done great. It is thriving where she is. All right, let's move around here. Good. You can see Yuffie has decided to swim, and Gracie has decided to chase Yuffie and take the ball away from her. As every day, that's what goes on around the Goodwine Zone. Hey, look at this beautiful little Calla Lilly. So this Calla Lilly I had in a pot, and the dogs knocked it over. But look at there. Isn't that beautiful? They knocked it over. The bulb ended up in the ground, and it has come back on its own. Nature will survive. So here we have the Waterfall. So look, this is kind of neat because if you recall, the dogs broke this branch off. Well, we have a lot of new growth on the Waterfall. We also have a lot of seeds on the Waterfall, which are interesting. And again, we've lost some leaves because of the drought. But there is the Waterfall. Such a deep, dark green on this Waterfall. I don't know if the camera will do it justice. Let's get up here. Look how deep, dark green these leaves are. Much different from some of the other green lace leaves. Let's go here. We've got the Beni Shien. Beni Shien has done really well. It was just a little bitty twig when we planted her. Beni Shien, you can see, although she's dry, she gets some purple, some kind of rust and copper, and some lighter green variegation in these leaves. And it's taking a real pretty shape. It's more of a bush form than a tree form. That's Beni Shien. Let's come over here to show you one of my favorites. Now they're just showing off, I think, huh? These dogs, I tell you, they don't know how spoiled they are. One of my favorites, the Watnong, W-A-T-N-O-N-G. This guy just has really neat character. Look at how some of the branches develop. She's getting taller. You know, Coach Dye used to say she was different every time like all the time, and she really is. Inside here we got the nice feathery green on new growth. Look at this beautiful pink, peachy color. And it's not on all of the tips, but it's on a lot of the tips. That is a beautiful tree, the Watnong. We have the Auburn Orange. It's what Coach Dye called this tree. Not much to speak of. It is a dwarf, so she probably won't get much larger, and nothing to speak of in the summertime. She does have that pretty orangish red in the fall. We have here Green Giant. It's not, I don't know why they don't call it Jolly Green Giant. I'd like to call it Jolly Green Giant. But look, this is a pretty neat little canopy shape she's developed for us. It's going to be interesting coming down this little ramp area. Ignore this guy. He didn't even have a name, but he was chewed up, left for dead. I thought, well, we'll leave him alone, see what happens. Same for this guy. I don't know what this guy is, but he has very different leaves, so we don't know what he is. But I think he's coming back on his original rootstock to just a regular Acer palmatum, but there's very deep lobes, long lobes with deep serration. We have, what is this? I'm going to have to come back and think of the name. We have the Bihu, one of Smokin' Hot's favorites. And why? Because look at this bark. Even though it's summer and the chlorophyll should be soaring through here, we've got yellow bark on the Bihu. I think part of that is from the drought. She's growing a lot up top. We've pruned her to make her a nice tree form and have her very open in the middle. She's going to get big. And we have here the Mizuno Beni. Mizuno Beni, the reason she's planted next to the Bihu is the Bihu has the yellow bark. Mizuno Beni has really deep green bark all year long. Again, she's kind of going to get of size. We may have to do something with these guys over here, but Mizuno Beni. Now, tragedy has struck. Tragedy has struck. I don't mean to be overly dramatic, and excuse the pool knitting. This was my bonsai forest, and we had a freeze this year. In December, it was in the 20s for about 5 days. We're going to come back and talk about Viridis. Oh goodness, we have let some weeds into this bonsai. But this was one of my favorites, if you recall. This was half Tamukiyama and half just regular Acer palmatum rootstock, but in a gorgeous bonsai form. Look at this. What do you call that? I'm going to have to put it down in the Nebu. I can't recall, but I'm going to put it in the comments down here. The root structure at the bottom of the plant. And it was so gorgeous. And a pretty little copper planter. Everything in containers during the about 4 days it was in the 20s. Everything in the containers died. So that is my favorite bonsai, my bonsai forest. And over here we're going to show you a couple of more trees. Now, Viridis. Remember Viridis looked so great in the fall? Okay, here's what we've learned about Viridis. Not very drought tolerant. Viridis did not like getting dry at all, as you can see. Neither do the large caladiums right next to her, but don't worry about that. But Viridis, I think she's going to come back, but she does not look happy. She does not like dry weather. Now, this tree doesn't have a name. I bought it from my friend Stuart Myers. Myers Plants and Pottery, Pelham, Alabama. It was tiny and it had just a little bit of white variegation. Well, look at this. This is cool. Tons of white variegation, and now I think these little peachy color leaves are more from the drought. They are just in the process of drying up. But all throughout, look at this, all throughout this tree, we've got this beautiful white. Look at that. If you think you know what this tree is, write it in the comments. It's a regular upright form, getting fairly tall, needs to be shaped up a bit, but this is just so cool with the white irrigation. I've got another one. Some people call it white cloud. I can't recall what the scientific name of the cultivar is. We'll get over there in a minute. It's supposed to have a lot of white variegation, but it does not have it as much as this. Look at that. That's just beautiful. All right, so we're going to have to come up with a name with that. You guys can help me. All right, let's go on over here. Japanese sunrise. Japanese sunrise, not a whole lot going on, but you'll notice nothing on her looks dry. She is not dropping any leaves. She is not dry at all. So Japanese sunrise, which has a cool bark, she is very drought tolerant. We've learned that. Tragedy, PV starfish, only thing growing in the container. A couple of little trees. Sorry about that. PV starfish is dead. The cold got her, not the drought. She was dead before the drought started. And look at this. This was a butterfly. And this was in a huge planter. Got this from Stuart Myers. It's actually a giant mixing bowl for a restaurant. So she had a lot of room in here. She had a lot of insulation on the roots, but still, freeze got her. Another smaller butterfly hanging on. She was also damaged in the cold, but she is hanging on. Obviously, the cold did not have any effect at all on the Wisteria, and the drought is not having much effect on the Wisteria. This is not Chinese Wisteria, by the way. I can't recall. I'll look that up for you as well. It's a less invasive, but still very pretty. Now, let's go back here, and we're going to end up with what has become my favorite. So, this is the white cloud, or Ukigumo. Ukigumo. Ukigumo, no, it's drought tolerant. It's in the shade, so it's not going to burn up too bad in the sun and in the heat, but small leaves, no. It's supposed to have the white, it's supposed to have the white variegation, and there's no variegation. We're still growing the Harmony hydrangeas. Now let's back up here. Sorry, this is crazy, but Arakawa, doing fine. Again, we got these crowded, and this, I know I said it last year, but this winter we're gonna make some room. Koto no Ito, which is a really cool, she does not like the dry weather either. She is all dried up, and But again, I want them to survive on their own, so she better get tough. Shigitatsu sawa. You know, it's an okay plant. It's got a lot of, see if we can get in here, a lot of veins, a lot of veins, green veins, and a lighter colored leaf. There's a good example. And this is how she is all year long. Nothing really different about her. And now we get to my favorite little girl, the Hana Matoi. I had two of them. The dogs ate the other one. This one is shaping up beautifully for me. Look at the pink, white, green. Yes, she has gotten dry. I have to admit, I have brought her some water because I'm not going to let her get in trouble. So she's a little dry, but I'm not going to treat her as tough as I am the other guys because she's my favorite, and I only have one of her since the dogs killed the other one. And let me tell you, just look. I mean, look at that beautiful pink. Pink, not really white, but sometimes she'll get some white. She's getting a great shape. That is just beautiful. Now, here's an interesting thing. So how do I water them? Sometimes, look at this. Yuffie has thrown me the ball. She came and dropped it at my feet because she wants it to go there. And so there she goes. Now watch, I'll turn around. She'll come back and drop it at my feet. Let me tell you, so sometimes I will take the ice tray out, and like today, we went somewhere with a cooler full of ice. I will dump the ice on the ground on Hana Matoi. And what that does is, as it slowly melts, it will water her, but the water will not run off like you just, try to hand water her with a hose. Look at this. Look at these guys. She just brought it up to me. Now watch, she'll get it again. Oh, these dogs. I mean, what other dogs have this kind of life? They are so spoiled. So let's see, that's all. We wrapped up with the Hana Matoi, and we're going to leave you with this gorgeous Hana Matoi. I hope you enjoyed the little bit of early summer examination and unfortunately some tragedy of our Japanese maples on the Goodwine zone. See you next time. Thanks.